The tickets were marked down by $200 each, my mother said. If you cannot afford it, then stay behind. I nodded quietly, then received a notification. My credit card had been charged for 4 business class seats. They were not mine. I opened my app, contested all the charges, and froze the account. At the time of check-in, my sister sent me a message saying, "Why has nothing been paid for?" I replied with, "What did you say?" I decided to stay back and later reserved my own trip. The following day, my father came to my apartment. The flights cost $1,200 each. My mom told me, "If you cannot afford this, stay behind." I did not argue. I just nodded and even smiled as if it did not hurt, as if it was not the 6th occasion in 2 years that my family had made it obvious I did not belong unless I paid the price. She said it so casually over speakerphone while I was still wearing my scrubs, sweating after a 12-hour hospital shift. I had just worked consecutive night shifts to pay the rent and slowly reduce my student debt. They were all headed to Maui, my mom, dad, my sister Emily, and her husband Jason. A full week away, business class, naturally. "You know we deserve this," she added. "It has been a tough year for everyone. Everyone. As if I were not part of that, everyone. As if I had not lent Emily $2,500 last April when Jason lost his sales job, or paid Dad's medical deductible when his blood pressure rose and he refused urgent care because of the expense. I told her it was okay, that I would remain behind. Then I returned to cleaning up vomit from an intoxicated patient who tried to hit me because I suggested he lie down. However, later that evening, I received a notification on my phone. It was an alert from my credit card application about business class tickets priced at $200 each. The card was mine, but the name was not. I opened the application to see passenger names: Chloe B., Jason B., Laura M., Mom, Michael M., Dad, no, Ethan M., no, and me. I stared at the screen for a full minute. My hands turned cold and my heart raced. They had used my credit card again without asking or informing me, assuming I would cover it as usual. I did not even get a window seat. I pressed dispute all and then locked the account. About an hour later, I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed once more. It was a message from Emily. "Why is nothing paid for?" "We're at check-in." I wiped the toothpaste from my mouth, read the message, took a deep breath, and replied, "What you said." I stayed behind, but not in the way they anticipated. I booked my own trip to somewhere warmer and quieter. No family, no responsibilities, no guilt. The following morning, my phone buzzed again. It was a call from Dad. I did not answer. That afternoon, he came to my apartment and knocked as if he owned the place. I did not open the door. It wasn't about the tickets. That was just the final straw on top of mountains of broken boundaries and overdraft charges. This all began when I was 22, and Chloe borrowed my credit card to purchase a dress for her engagement party. A temporary emergency fund of $600 because you work in healthcare and don't even bother dressing up, so you barely notice. She promised repayment by the end of the month, but never followed through. Then Dad asked me to co-sign a loan for renovating their kitchen. He insisted it wasn't really for us, but to increase resale value. "One day, you will inherit it," he said. Spoiler alert, the house was refinanced twice, and the extra money went to cover Justin's second unsuccessful business. At that time, I was putting in more than 50 hours a week, struggling just to stay afloat. Somehow, I was still viewed as the family ATM, the reliable one, the nurse with a stable job, the unmarried sibling without children who should contribute because family supports each other. But the support was never reciprocal. When I caught pneumonia last winter after working through a tough flu season and asked Mom to bring me soup, she replied, "I can't, sweetheart. I promised Emily I would watch the kids while she gets her nails done. You understand?" And I always did. When Jason crashed my car, the same car I lent him while his was in the shop, my insurance rates doubled. He didn't even apologize, just shrugged and said, "That's what insurance is for, right?" They drained me gradually, like water wearing down stone, until it no longer hurt. I was the frog boiling slowly until the week before the trip to Hawaii that broke me. I was finishing a night shift when Emily texted, "Can you move your payday up? Mom wants to." We tried to book hotels and were coming up short. "What do you mean, payday?" I replied. "Short for what exactly?" She responded with an image of hula dancers, along with the phrase, family trip and emojis of a desert island, a hibiscus flower, and a dancing woman. "I called Mom," I said. "Emily mentioned you might need help with hotel bookings," I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Oh, darling, don't stress over that," she chirped cheerfully. "Everything is already taken care of. We just needed a little extra to upgrade to business class. You know how terrible Jason's knees are. Wait a minute. You expect me to pay for the upgrade on a trip I am not even attending?" There was silence. Then her tone shifted. "Look, Abigail, if you wanted to come, you should have said something earlier. But flights are $10,200 each. If that's beyond your budget, maybe it's better you skip this one. No ill will." She said it as if I was a burden, as if my very presence was an inconvenience to their lavish plans. I didn't argue. I just hung up quietly, feeling numb and calm. Then a notification arrived. My card was charged for 4 business class tickets. That's when the numbness shattered. All the sacrifices every time I canceled trips, missed dinners, worked extra shifts. What for? So they could indulge while I rationed my medication and survived on instant noodles 3 evenings a week. That night, I sat at my desk staring at my financial spreadsheet. I had $327 in checking and $14,200 in student debt. My car was 6 years old and had 119,000 miles. I hadn't taken a vacation since college. Meanwhile, Jason was enjoying premium champagne with my name clearly marked on the bill, while Emily had the nerve to text me from the check-in line asking, "Why is nothing paid for?" That was the moment everything fell apart. This was who they truly were and had always been. I was never family. I was just the source of their money. I replied simply, "What did you say?" I chose to stay back. Then I did something unexpected. I visited a travel website and booked a trip for myself. It wasn't extravagant, but it was entirely mine. No strings attached, no guilt weighing me down. The following day, my father appeared at my apartment like something out of a Netflix drama. Dressed in his Hawaiian shirt, he stood outside looking a mix of confused, angry, and entitled. He knocked once, but I didn't answer. Then he knocked again, this time louder. "Abigail, open the door. We need to talk," he called out. I ignored him. He lingered for 7 full minutes. I counted the time, before finally leaving. That night, my mom left me a voicemail saying, "You really hurt your father today. He cut his trip short just to talk to you after all we've done for you." Done for me? I saved the message, not as a memory, but as proof. I refused to gaslight myself any longer. The next day, Emily attempted to call me 5 times and followed up with a message. "Grow up. You can't punish the entire family over a single misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. They had exploited me, stole from me, and ridiculed me. And when I finally said no, suddenly I was the villain. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. They believed my silence meant defeat, that if they just kept knocking harder and longer, I'd give in. I usually give in without resistance. However, things had changed. The following day, Jason returned accompanied by Laura. The same place, the same hallway in the condo, and the familiar fatigue etched on their faces trying to manipulate me. I refused to open the door. That evening, messages from Emily began pouring in. "You are being utterly unfair. We desperately needed that upgrade. Justin's knees swell painfully when he travels economy class. Do you understand the trouble you have caused? We were unable to check in and had to pay extra for a downgrade. Do you realize how humiliating that was? Family should stand by one another. Family." The words struck me again and again. I typed, erased, then retyped, before finally responding with a single message. "Do you mean like when I covered your rent for 8 months and you never refunded me?" No answer came. Soon after, my phone was bombarded with calls from Laura, all of which I ignored. Then Jason sent a text saying, "You need to mature and stop playing the victim. We had no option. We didn't expect the card to be declined. You were supposed to assist us as you always do." I stared for a long time at the line. "You were supposed to assist us." As if I were some family employee whose absence was an offense at work. I chose not to respond. However, I was far from finished because they believed this was merely a passing mood, a childish outburst, something I would get over like before. But this moment was different. I felt not only emotional pain but also mental, financial, and physical exhaustion after years of silently supporting a broken system as its invisible benefactor. So I did something completely unexpected. I sat down and drafted an invoice. $600 spent on Emily's engagement dress that was never repaid. $2,500 lent to Emily and Jason while he was unemployed. $800 paid out of pocket for Dad's MRI deductible. $420 spent on groceries that Mom forgot to repay through Venmo. $1,200 charged without permission for 4 business class tickets to Hawaii. $150 in interest and fees from late credit card payments caused by these charges. The total outstanding amount came to $770. I then sent these details to the family group chat with a request for reimbursement of unauthorized expenses and past financial support. Believing that families should support each other, I shared a detailed account of the financial help I have provided over the last 2 years. Starting July 1st, I will no longer cover family expenses and expect full repayment within 30 business days. If not, I will have to report the unauthorized use of my financial accounts to my credit provider. From that point on, no further financial dealings will be allowed. The group chat erupted with shock. "Emily, are you serious? How can you send an invoice to family? Mom said this is hurtful and unnecessary. Abigail warned you are making things worse." Dad reminded, "We raised you better than this." That message was the breaking point. The truth was, they did not raise me. I raised myself. Amid extra work shifts, unpaid debts, and always being the fallback for others' careless actions, I responded with honesty. "You did not raise me. I have been drowned in the imbalance of our relationship." I allowed the relationship to continue, but not anymore. Then I blocked Emily. Out of pure curiosity about how far the illusion would stretch, I unblocked Michael and Laura. It turned out to be very far indeed. The following night they appeared at my door. Through the peephole I saw Michael standing rigidly while Laura clutched some papers, likely receipts and excuses. When I opened the door, Laura said with a shaky voice, "You need to talk to us." Calmly I responded, "No, I truly do not." Michael took a step forward and accused, "This stunt with freezing the credit, the invoice, it's spiteful, Abigail. We are your family, and you used my name and card to buy flights." I snapped back, "That is not family. That is a serious betrayal of trust." Laura began to cry, saying, "We didn't expect it to be a problem. You always help." I interrupted, "Because you taught me to. Since I was 22, you have treated me like an automatic debit card. I helped because I was raised to believe saying no made me a bad daughter, but I am finished being the good daughter." Michael growled, "Do not speak to your mother like that." I shot back, "No, do not speak to me as if I owe you anything. I work double shifts while Emily and Jason use my money to drink mimosas at the airport. I helped pay your hospital bills while you called me selfish behind my back." He stepped forward again and said, "Do you think this makes you strong? Turning your back on family?" I said no, "But it does make me free." Then I closed the door firmly, not slamming, but with a clear, final purpose. They did not knock again that night. One night, I received a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was quiet and defeated. She said, "I do not recognize who you are anymore." For the first moment in my life, I found myself smiling at her words because I was no longer the person they used to take advantage of. After I shut the door firmly on my father's face, the silence that settled afterward was not peaceful at all. It was sharp, deliberate, and absolute. No more pounding on the door, no more messages filled with guilt. There was only a void where their control once existed. For 2 whole days there was no sound, not a single word from any of them. I suspected that the cold treatment would never end. Then anxiety crept in. It began with an email from my bank warning that someone had tried to use my old suspended credit card once again to rent a car in Maui. Jason, of course. I contacted the fraud department immediately. They confirmed that the attempt matched his identification details. They asked if I wanted to press charges, but I declined for the moment. Instead, I made sure they recorded everything and sent the report to my email with the subject labeled as evidence, just in case I needed to take further steps. Later that evening, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. It said, "We are stranded. Are you really going to abandon your family like this after everything we have done for you, Emily?" I stared at the message for a long time, questioning, what exactly have they done for me except take from me? I did not reply, but took a screenshot and stored it in a new folder I had created called Family Patterns I Will Not Repeat. A few days went by, then something truly strange occurred. I received a message on Facebook from Marissa. Yes. That was Marissa, Jason's former wife. We had not spoken in quite a few years. Last I knew, she had relocated across the country following their separation and was starting fresh. She was always far too clever for him, a lawyer with grit, determination, and no tolerance for foolishness. Her message was straightforward. "Hey, Abigail, sorry to suddenly reach out like this, but I think you need to hear something." I replied, "Is this about Jason?" She responded with a thumbs up, then sent a PDF file. I hesitated briefly before opening it. Inside were screenshots, records of bank transfers, a clear financial trail. Apparently, Jason had been diverting money from a shared family account. Mom and Dad had granted him access for emergencies. He was gambling once more, this time in cryptocurrency, risky and reckless. It only worsened. Among the images were emails, one from Mom pleading with Marissa not to report anything, another from Dad saying, "We will fix this. Abigail does not need to find out." Everyone knew. They all knew. They kept it from me out of fear I'd cut them off before I actually did. The plane tickets were just the beginning. They had been draining my resources to conceal Jason's financial chaos. I called Marissa right away. She answered the phone on the second ring. "I wasn't sure you wanted to speak," she said, "but I couldn't stand being a bystander any longer. I know how badly they used to treat you." I asked why she chose to reveal this now. She paused before explaining, "Because you are finally taking the step I should have taken long ago, walking away. You deserve to know the truth." That evening, I printed every single page, every transaction, every suspicious message. I fastened them together and carried the stack to my desk. For the first time in many years, I slept with the window open, a gentle breeze filling my room, and no tightness of worry weighing on my heart. The following morning, an unknown number called me. I allowed the call to go to voicemail. It was Dad. His voice sounded low, not furious, but weary. "Abigail, I don't know what to say. Your mother is overwhelmed by stress. Emily is refusing to eat. Jason is struggling too. We made errors, certainly, but you have made your point. I am asking woman to woman. Can we please talk?" I typed just one sentence and sent it back. "You are not owed forgiveness you never deserved." That week, I resent the invoice, this time attaching Marissa's files as supplemental proof. I copied Aunt Linda, and out of spite, I sent a censored version to my dad's employer's HR department anonymously. A few days later, I received a notification that Dad was no longer listed on the company website. I didn't celebrate. I wasn't angry, only indifferent. Meanwhile, my life blossomed. I signed up for therapy, real face-to-face sessions. I took long strolls, bought a bicycle, cooked something new every weekend. I began seeing a man I met in the hospital cafeteria, David. He was soft-spoken, inquisitive, unaware of my family background. I shared with him about them, about me, about the version of myself I was finally creating without their influence. One afternoon, David and I sat together on my couch. I was reviewing a nearby hiking path when he noticed one and grinned, suggesting, "Want to explore it next weekend?" For the very first time in many years, I did not have to verify my bank balance. I simply replied, yes. Several weeks afterward, I received a final letter, penned by hand with no return address. The handwriting was familiar. It belonged to Emily. 5 pages filled with deceit, hidden as an apology. "We all make errors," it said. "You crossed the line. Mom is in tears every single day. You have abandoned family ties." At the conclusion, she wrote, "We are family. Nothing will ever change that." At that moment, I understood she was correct. We are family. That is what makes this situation even more painful, because it was not strangers who betrayed me, but the very people who knew me intimately and still chose to hurt me. I folded the letter, set it atop the Marissa folder, and locked them both away in a drawer. The night before my birthday, I received a card in the mail, simple, with no return address. Inside, just 3 words, "And I see you." It was from Marissa. Right then, I smiled, because finally, someone truly understood me. It has been half a year since I shut the door on my past. Half a year since I stopped feeling guilty for saying no. Half a year since I looked in the mirror and no longer saw a walking bank account, but a whole woman who was free. I used to believe closure depended on them. Heads bowed, tears falling, begging forgiveness, and offering redemption. But closure was never theirs to give. It belonged to me. About 3 weeks ago, I bumped into my mother by chance while I was retrieving an early morning espresso at a quiet downtown cafe, still feeling half asleep. Earbuds in, hood pulled over my head. Then her voice reached me. "Abigail." I looked up and there she stood, smaller than I had recalled, not just in height but in presence, as if time had diminished her. She smiled as if nothing had ever happened, as if we had not endured a silent war filled with invoices. "Can we sit?" We sat down. She spoke first, babbling on. No sincere apologies, just a rewritten history. We were just trying to hold everything together. We did not realize how much you were bearing. If we could turn back time, maybe we would choose differently. No admission of guilt, no mention of the fraud, not a word about Jason attempting to misuse my credit again. No responsibility for Emily's spiteful words. Just an emotional rehearsal where I was meant to play the forgiving daughter. But I was finished with that role. Then came the unavoidable question, "Do you hate us now?" I did not hesitate. "No," I answered, "but I no longer owe you anything." She blinked in surprise. "But we are family." "That is not a reason," I replied. "That is a justification." She reached into her purse and handed me an envelope, then rose and said she hoped I would return to them one day. I calmly told her, "I already did to tell you that I am not coming back." After she left, I opened the envelope. A check, $7,870. No note, no apology, just silence marked with a $sign. I did not cash it immediately. Instead, I pinned it on my wall above my desk next to a quote that changed my life. "You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm." Emily never contacted me directly again, but Marissa did. After sharing Justin's financial deceptions with me, she also sent the same set of evidence to a family law attorney in the state's fraud division. Jason is now being investigated for wire fraud and misusing family money. And guess what? He did not only use my card, he also took funds from Mom and Dad's retirement savings too. The same parents who once claimed he was just facing a tough time. How ironic. When I asked Marissa why she stepped in, she said, "Because you need support, and I couldn't sleep knowing they would keep draining you." She was no longer just Jason's ex. She became a truth teller, armed with proof. Dad quietly lost his job. The rumor is that HR started an inquiry after receiving a certain anonymous packet. He tried to call me one more time but went to voicemail. "You've made your point, Abigail. You've shamed us all, but family is not a business deal. You will regret this," he said. I did not reply, because here is the reality. Family is a business deal when it has always been one-sided. Michael and I were rock solid. He stood by me when I revealed everything, the good, the bad, even the bank statements. He did not flinch and just squeezed my hand, saying, "I am proud you have not let this make you bitter." He is the first person in my life who never made me earn his love by sacrificing myself. We are planning to move in together this autumn to a new home, larger and brighter. And no, I did not ask anyone for money. Regarding the rest, I cashed the check and then gave every single cent to a scholarship fund dedicated to young nurses who support their families financially while studying. Because someone out there was me 5 years ago, pushing herself to the limit while her family acted as if everything was normal. She needs to realize that it is not normal. She needs to understand she is not alone. So what does that make me now? Stronger, more silent and wiser. Still a daughter and still a sister, but no longer the person they depend on entirely. I no longer carry their burdens. I carry my own limits. I carry my peace, and I carry the memory of the day I finally said, "I am not your safety net. I am my own person." They didn't grasp it then, but I love myself for standing firm. So this is what I leave behind: guilt, fear, and the false belief that being the good one means bleeding yourself dry for others. And here is what I hold on to: my life. It is not flawless, but it belongs to me. This time, I won't share it with anyone who doesn't show me that I matter. I used to be the one everyone leaned on. Now I stand tall on my own, and the door I shut that day remains closed. Only now, the key stays in my pocket, and it is not going anywhere.